So nothing I tell you in the biography about my next guest, Erica Douglas, is going to do her justice. She's been a friend, a client, a colleague for years now, which kind of blows my mind. But she's just an amazing woman. Years ago, before she was 26, she built a business and sold it for $1 million, which was her claim to fame way back then. Now she's built businesses with her husband. She's a coach herself. She has a blog that has over 112 readers. She has ADHD, which is something we're going to be talking about later. So she's successful with those challenges. She has a beautiful daughter, Mackenzie, and has just built an incredible life for herself. I asked Erica to be on the show because everything she talks about, whenever she writes, whenever she is out in public, it's always to serve. It's always impactful. It's always valuable to the people who listen. So I told her, come on, and I don't really care what we talk about. I just want to share you with my listeners, especially during the time of the coronavirus pandemic. There's something comforting and wise about you. So let's just have this conversation. So Eric, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I love you so much, and I'm just thrilled to have an opportunity to have another conversation with you, let alone a public one.
Yes, I am excited.
So you're blogging and you're speaking and you're coaching and you're talking to people all the time while you're running your business. And we're in the middle of this pandemic, so a lot of things are shut down. Businesses are slowing down. What are you talking to people about now?
I think the biggest thing I'm talking about is how to kind of look forward and understand that while things in the world have changed, there's a significant amount of the world that will go back to being what it was. And that's a good thing. There are a lot of good things in our society that were there before. And while I look forward to changes that will happen because of the pandemic, I also think we have to understand that maybe looking back on this in 5 years, as we look back on all of our social media posts and whatnot, with all those reminders of 5 years ago, this was the pandemic, we'll remember it was a really rough time, but we got through it. And so I'm trying to have that 5+ year perspective on all my posts right now.
What do you want to keep and what do you want to leave behind?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I could go in so many directions with that.
Two people with A.D.D. having a conversation. Let's go.
Exactly. So I think what I would want to keep is the new reality of what we're doing right now, which is video conferencing, which is connecting online with people that we haven't seen in a while, right? And I think what I would want to leave behind is a lot of the overly Instagrammable, very over the top, not reality things that people were doing online. What I'm talking about is the people who look like they were basically constantly on vacation, yet somehow still making money. And then, the whole world of influencers and brands came crashing down. Of course, having been an influencer in the past with my blog, having reached millions of people, it sounds funny to say, well, I want the influencer community to crash. It's not exactly what I mean. When I wrote my blog, we had a group of people who wrote blogs and we became friends over time. And many of us are still friends to this day. And we still write blogs and we still do videos. And we enjoy that community of ourselves. I feel like what influencing became was almost a one-up type of environment where, oh, my scene is better than yours. I've got the better photo, the better lighting, the better pose. And then it became all about editing yourself, editing your body, editing who you are as a person, because you couldn't afford to have the slightest amount of cellulite or be a little bit overweight or any of that stuff, which all of us kind of normally are, right? Especially as we approach midlife. So to me, having that come crashing down a little bit and having reality come back into the world, I think is an important thing. My whole focus for so many years has been being real, right? I always have shown the flaws and the successes of running a business. I don't want to be one of those people who just constantly talk about how great everything is and how awesome life is and how perfect it is. And I almost dread a little bit reading posts of people who are just constantly positive about everything. think the pandemic's been a wake-up call. I don't think the pandemic has been constantly positive for very many people. So I've
I think
seen,
it's forced people to really come clean and be real. I actually
yes,
I've been really good since the pandemic started. I practice what I preach, and I've been really centered and really pretty good. Last Friday, I had a bad day, and I just put on Facebook, I'm having a really rotten day. I'm not happy with humanity. I'm not happy with myself. I'm not happy with anything. And I'm cool, but, and that was like one of my most liked, loved, and responded to posts in months, which is really
exactly.
interesting. One is that, just kind of showing some humanity, but the other that people just want to connect on that level is really interesting.
Yes, I think that we are learning that it's okay to be real. And many of us are being real in more private spaces right now, which is fine. I've seen people set up Discord groups, Zoom calls on a regular basis. Like I've got a group of friends that meet every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday on Zoom, and you can show up or not. And then they play trivia, and you can play or not, and you can just hang out and have fun. Some of the calls have up to like 30 people on them. Some of them just have a handful, but it's a good way to reconnect with old friends, people I've known for years who live all across the country or world. So I think even if it's a private space, I'm glad to see people starting to be themselves and not try to live up to some sort of predefined image of who they're supposed to be.
It makes a ton of sense. For me, being a coach, and a pretty high profile coach online, I see all these guys, with ripped bodies hanging from rocks, going, "I'll coach you to the heights." And meanwhile, I just sit here with my beads and my my Zoom camera, and do my thing. And I wonder, how can I compete in that realm? And the truth is, there's no competition. You have been real from the beginning, and I think reality and connection is the most important thing.
Yep. I think that more people are starting to get it. So that's my hope for the future.
So question. So things are, we're at the point of, if you're, the listeners, to give them a little context, we're at the point where we're about 8 weeks in, 9 weeks in, and things are starting to slowly open up. Whether they're opening up correctly, whether they're opening up sanely, we'll leave that to other people. But things are starting to open up. People are going back to work. Businesses are starting to open. What are you telling your people as far as how to go about re-engaging in the world of business as they go out?
I think it's about safety right now still. I think that's the primary message is, I think it's important to continue to wear a mask, continue to socially distance when you can. But if it's causing you having mental health issues, having relationship issues, which for many of us, especially as parents to younger kids, it's becoming a mental health issue at this point to stay inside and to not socialize and your kid not socialize. And it breaks my heart to see my daughter get so frustrated when she can't, have a play date or go out with a friend. And I have to balance as a parent the mental health aspect versus the safety aspect. So I think this is the point where, from a personal level, I'm starting to open up my life again a bit just so that my daughter can have fun, especially outside. I think another thing that I've really enjoyed is that people are starting to understand that outside spaces are where you want to be right now, and that getting vitamin D is important. And so I've been spending a lot of time outside with my daughter.
Nice. I'm so grateful. My partner John likes to hike, so we go on these epic hikes every Sunday. He walks the dog 10 miles a day while I'm in here working because he's retired. But those hikes on the weekend are really been great for my mental health. I agree. Something caught my eye. I pay attention to you, over the years, and I keep track of what you do and what you share. But you said something really cool on one of your latest blogs, where you say many high earners are depressed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have to be. And I really caught my eye because you're such a real person who runs real businesses. So you're not like, oh, go follow your bliss, follow your dreams, and everything will be great. Because I'm the same as you. Is like, you need health insurance, okay, dude?
Yeah,
Like let's go follow our dreams and make sure we have health insurance. We still are in America, right? Like that kind of thing.
right.
But you talk about that. Why are high earners often depressed and dissatisfied?
Yeah, great question. I think there is a path to being successful, especially in the United States, where you go to the right school, you get the right degree, you hang out with the right people, you get a job at the right company, and then you get all of that, and you're maybe 5 or 10 years into this whole job thing, and you're like, wow, this isn't me at all. I don't really want to be a consultant or a developer or any, or a high powered finance person, an attorney, any of that stuff. And I watched, my dad go through that own crisis, his own crisis as an attorney, going through that midlife phase and having to deal with the fact that this is probably what he was going to be forever and ever. And how he coped with it was to do a lot of nonprofit work and to work with a lot of volunteer organizations. So I think
So
that's
he didn't leave being an attorney. He added to.
yeah. I think he realized that in his case, there was a whole town depending on him being an attorney. And so he couldn't really just afford to go, suddenly be something else, especially in a small town. You don't have a lot of choices. But having the ability to add to it in a healthy way, right? So now I think we add so many things to our lives, right? Our kids' lives are structured, and we have all these after school events and soccer and all of this stuff that we want them to be able to do, but we're constantly trying to schedule around all the other things we have planned for them, right? And so we have to force ourselves to make time for just us as well, right? And don't feel guilty if you can't volunteer right now. I have put my efforts into donating to organizations that I like and want to support, but spending the time on myself. And for me, it's been a lot about exercise, like you mentioned your hike. So I do a lot of hard workouts, and that helps a lot with my mental state.
What are your
So,
workouts now?
well, I have a bike at home. I won't be a walking brand advertisement, but it is a popular stationary bike with classes online, and I love it. I tell you, I could write every article about this bike.
I will tell you, we can actually, like every single one of my clients has a Peloton.
Yes.
Every single one of my clients. So it's okay. You can say that.
Yes, I just hesitate to sound like I'm a commercial for them because I feel like every time I talk about it, I sound like a commercial. So, but yeah, I'm on there a lot doing the classes, and I absolutely love it. And it has been a game changer for me. So I've had it for about 6, 7 months now, and I haven't ridden every day, but I've ridden every week. So I have now a 27-week streak going,
Wow.
and I'm pretty excited about that. So it's the power of sticking to something and making it part of your life that's been really good for me. Last night after dinner, I did a 30-minute ride, and it's just great to just tune out the world, put my headphones on, and just ride.
Nice. And you don't have to have that I have my regular bike, and I have a
Yeah,
stand that turns it into a stationary bike. I have an iPad. I'm good to go, right? Like, so
exactly.
you don't have to be rich and famous to be able to do that. So let's go back to that. One of the things you said was, for high earners, the solution to being depressed or dissatisfied is not making less money. It's bringing meaning into your life. So
Yes.
with the example with your dad, he brought meaning into his life by adding charity work.
Hmm.
How else do you help people figure that out?
I think a lot of what I do on a daily basis is helping people just one on one, like in person. And I understand that's difficult in current times due to the pandemic, but it will come back. With the business that I run now is a lot of in person work. And a lot of people are really grateful when you're helping them and you're done helping them. And they're like, thank you. You really helped me out a lot. And that gratitude from people, even when it's a small thing that you've helped them out with, is a really key thing to staying healthy for me. I need to know that my work, no matter how small or large it is appreciated. And that's an important thing for me. So when somebody says thank you, I really take the time to listen to that and to
Mm.
embrace that.
Really take it in. It's not, I love that. It's not egotistical to take that in. It's actually nourishing so that you can have the fuel to keep going. When I was a sales guy, I took one of those tests to figure out what my values were. And it was when I was, starting to dip my toe into the coaching world. And I found out that my essence, my dharma, the thing that makes me tick is connection. I need to be connected to people on a really deep level. And it's funny because I'm an introvert, but the deep connection is really important to me. And I'm a sales guy, right? And I was like, how am I going to what do I do with this? Like, if my superpower is connection, what? And then I realized, oh, as a sales guy, I am out talking to people and meeting people all day long. I may hate the job, the pressure, all the things like that, and I want to go do something much more quote unquote meaningful. But what I brought was that love of connection to every meeting. Like, I was not in a meeting with a customer. I wasn't trying to close a sale. I was in relationship with people, and even shy and introverted and all that stuff. I was wildly successful as a sales guy because I connected with people, and I was a startup guy. So when I went from company to company, all my customers would follow me and at least give me the initial meeting, right? Whether they wanted my product or not, the relationship was key. So I brought meaning to that, which made my days much better.
Exactly. I think understanding too, and I like that you mentioned that you were in sales, because I work so much with software developers and other tech people, and they almost have kind of an allergic reaction to the word sales, right? And understanding what you understand, which is, even as an introvert, even as somebody who's been in the tech industry, that sales can be a way to receive connection and gratitude. It's a very interesting take on sales, and one that I wish more people understood, that sales is a way to make people happy. It's not necessarily selling them something they don't want or being overly pushy, right? I do a lot of sales as part of my job, and when I talk to people, they're excited to buy stuff, right? And if they're not, I don't push them on it, right? The greatest part of my job is that I feel no obligation to sell anything to anyone, and yet people buy stuff all the time because I have products that serve needs.
Nice. Well, so one of the greatest things in my sales career was when I have conversations with people, I would be like, so what are your plans? What do you want to be promoted? Do you want a different job? Do you want, like, I find out what was important to them. And then, it was really a plus if my product or thing, like, if this project goes really well, I get promoted. Cool, I'm all in. I want you to look good. I want you to, I want this thing to be successful. So,
Yes.
we work, or if there was something in personal life, and, for me, people seem to open up and tell me all their deep, dark secrets, even when I was a sales guy. So having a conversation about their marriage was definitely a way to close a sale because people were close. It was really, really interesting. So one of the focuses that you have now is the ADHD. And
Yes.
you're writing about it and you're bringing it to the world. So I know you suffer, and it's both a gift and a curse.
Right.
Right? I live with the gift and the curse. I went down the rabbit hole of dot mandala arts on rocks on Sunday when I was supposed to be doing something else, and I, like, 2 hours went by, and now it's like I want to change my career and do mandalas on rocks. But it also makes me and you creative. Why are you focused on that, and what is it that you're trying to bring to the world with that?
Yeah, I think a lot of people with ADHD, or even people who think they have it but aren't necessarily diagnosed, I always find that they're highly creative people, but they struggle with knowing where to go in the world. And I'm someone who has been very fortunate in that I've been able to discover multiple businesses over the years that have worked really well for me with my ADHD. And I've discovered types of people that I'm able to work with that work well with my ADHD, which is equally as important as the type of business that you run. And I've discovered too, the great thing about not having to do everything myself, that I can rely on a team that I've helped to build with my business. And I've gotten to a level with the business where it's not always me. I can have a day to go down a rabbit hole if I want to. Well, maybe pre-pandemic. Now my days are filled with my daughter.
But I do remember when you started the most recent businesses, that you didn't have those days, that it was you were so intimately involved in everything that was going on. It was really, and you had just had your daughter. So juggling all that was really, really tough.
It was. And there are definitely benefits to having a business that I've run now for several years and being able to have built a team that helps out. I think whenever you start, you have to realize that you're going to have to do most things yourself. And that's just the reality of a business that hasn't taken off yet. And I've certainly had businesses that have never gone past that stage. And that's when I start to realize, oh, this is probably not a business that I want to do, right? Because it's just all about me all the time. My co-working space is a good example there. I ran a co-working space for 3 years. And while it made money, it never really made enough money to hire someone. And so clearly the options were leave the business or expand the business, right? Acquire more spaces, get bigger. And at the time I closed it, WeWork had just come on the scene with a lot of money. And I realized that they were going to try to expand and make an Amazon-like play in the business where it wasn't going to be profitable for years. And so I bowed out of the business and let somebody else run the space instead of me.
Who would have thunk that WeWork would have turned into such the disaster that it did, which is they should have had you running it. But you just said something really interesting that I've never heard before. People with ADD can't figure out where they want to be in the world, where they belong in the world. And I don't think it's just people with ADD. I think there are so many options. There's so many places to go. And now people are saying, hey, don't go to college.
Right.
Kids, save that $100,000. Ask your parents to invest in a business. Go online, makes 6-7 figures, right? And some of that is just such bullshit, but some of it is so real. Like there are things you can do. College isn't the be all end all anymore. So now it's not what we talked about at the beginning of the show, which is get your degree, go get a job, do those things. So people are trying to figure out where they end up in the world. How do you counsel people to start to decide where do they want to be in the world?
Yeah, I think it's a great question because there are a lot of courses and coaches that advocate like finding your passion. And I advocate running the business your passion, right? And so if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to love running a business. That should be your passion, no matter what the business is. And I've been able to show that in multiple businesses in multiple industries with multiple teams of people, sometimes by myself as the co-owner, sometimes as co-founders, I've been successful. And some of them have been failures, right? Not everything has been a win for me, but in general, my businesses approach and go past 7 figures in revenue. I'm gonna take a quick drink. Sorry.
The magic of editing.
I know. I just got like something in my throat all of a sudden. Just get some water here too. See if that's better. That's better. Okay. Just needed a drink.
All right. I'm just going to put this there for me for editing. Okay.
Yes. So when I've been able to approach my businesses with 7 figures or more in revenue, I've been able to do it by myself, with a team, with other people. And I've been able to do it with multiple different types of businesses, right? So in a way, it's understanding that the business is where you have to be passionate, not necessarily the type of business, but running a business, the marketing, the sales, the hiring people, the employees, dealing with employees is a huge part of running a business. And that's the part that you have to be excited about. If you're not excited about all of that, if you don't want to do any of that stuff, I would say don't run a business. If you think you might be excited about that, but you're not sure, then you should try running a business and see how it works for you. But that's the kind of stuff that has to get you motivated in the morning. That's the kind of stuff where you have to wake up and you have to be like, not like, I'm going to sell some stuff today, but understanding that you have to have motivation to work on the business as opposed to playing Animal Crossing or whatever else you would like to do.
It's really interesting because I'll talk to people and I'll know immediately who's an entrepreneur and who's not. When someone's saying, I could get 2% more margin on this if I just tweak this and I do this and I turn this screw and I do that. And I'm like, want to stick pencils in my eyes. I know the difference between an entrepreneur and not an entrepreneur, which is, I don't like being an entrepreneur. I love being a coach. I love having my own business, but I need to have the people help me do the things I don't do well in order to be able to do what I love to do. Right. So, yes. but so what about people who don't want to run a business? How do you help them figure out where they want to go? I think that was a trick question because you help people who want to run businesses.
Yeah, I think so. But I also work with people who are coaches, consultants, and freelancers. And like you, many of them are very happy with that. And they don't want the pressure of having employees. So there are upsides and there are downsides, right? Like at this point in my business, several years into it, I can take a vacation and not have to do very much work, right? I can take my kid to Disney World for a week with my husband, and we can, yes, there will be work calls and emails and stuff that we still have to do, but generally speaking, we don't have to, try to work full time from the hotel room, right? Which is important.
And I remember when that wasn't true.
Yes. Oh yeah. It takes years to get there. I think that's the other thing. People expect this to happen instantly, or they think, oh, in 6 months I'll hire a virtual assistant and then I won't have to do that. Yes, it's a step-by-step process, right? In 6 months, you may make enough money to not have to be able to hire a virtual assistant, right? And then you will have less work that you have to do, but you still have to produce. You still have to, you still have to do the work, right? Or another alternative is a business like yours, where you can schedule coaching calls in the morning, and then the rest of your day is free to do what you would like to do. And I like that type of schedule too. I think that's a very valid alternative to running a big business and making it into 7 figures a year plus in revenue. So I think there are multiple valid ways to handle the entrepreneurial itch, as they say. I think you may think that you don't have an entrepreneurial itch, but I think you do. You're way more entrepreneurial than the average person.
My whole career was being a sales guy, which is entrepreneur. There's just certain things that I don't like. I don't like to do my taxes. I don't like to keep my books. Yeah. I don't like to, I don't, those are the types of things. But you in one of your last blogs, you said there's 3 factors that make people successful. What are they, if you remember?
Oh,
I can remind you if you don't remember your own wisdom.
No, it's fine. I write these blogs. It's a good thing that you brought that up, because I write these blogs in sort of a bubble. It's funny that people often quote my own stuff back to me and I don't even recognize that I wrote it. I get in, and you'll understand this because you have ADHD, I get in that hyper-focus mode when I write, and something comes from somewhere and it feels right, so I write it. And then I'll read it back even the next day and go, I wrote that?
My marketing team took excerpts from Only Tens and they started putting it out on social media. And I'd be reading this going, that's so good. Who wrote that? Who said that? And it was all my stuff. So I totally get it.
Exactly. So
let's go back to the 3 factors. Let's go back to the 3 factors.
Okay. So go ahead.
Do you want me to prompt you? It's persistence. Yes. Listen to those who matter and ignore those who don't, and create consistently.
Yes. I'm so right.
So expand on those now that you know what they are.
Yes, I think persistence is probably one of the most important ones. I see people so often give up on businesses so early into it. If you have, let's say you're trying to sell a product online, for instance, a lot of people start in e-commerce, right? And you're selling something that you're passionate about, something that you've made, right? And I don't want to give any examples here because I don't want anybody to think I'm speaking about them, which I'm not, right? I'm speaking in general sense, but based on people I've spoken with. And you're really passionate about this product that you've made by hand, and it's beautiful and it's gorgeous and your friends love it and everybody says you should sell it, right? That's what a lot of people come into entrepreneurial side from is, oh, all my friends said I should sell this, right? And you get online and you build your store and you've got this product set up and you post about it on social media and you send it to some of your friends, and a couple of days go by and nobody buys it. And you're like, wow, what happened? Everybody said I should sell this product and nobody actually bought it when I put it up for sale. And you start overthinking it, right? This is really common with people. It's like, oh, it's $20. Maybe it should be $10, or, the shipping is too expensive, or maybe people don't like that color. That's just a weird color. Or maybe I should just make more stuff and then it'll eventually sell. What I talk about in persistence is understanding where your stuff is and where the market is and where those 2 circles intersect, right? Where your stuff is something that you have built and you're excited about and you're an artisan and you've made it in this example. And where the market is maybe they're buying the mass-produced version of that product and they need some education. Maybe they're not buying that product at all and they have no idea what it is. So there's going to be some education there. And you have to think about not just putting up a store and selling the product, but persistently creating the content and doing the work so that people understand why to buy the product, right? And so my goal for years with business has been building content to emphasize why people should buy something. And it's the content doesn't necessarily sell the product, but the content educates people on why they should buy a particular type of product. And so you have to think about your content not as a sales letter, but as an education, as informative. You are a teacher. You are teaching them why they should buy this instead of the mass-produced stuff. You are teaching them why they should buy this instead of the other 57,000 people who are selling it online.
And how does this fit into the persistence piece?
Yeah, so creating content and all that stuff takes a long time. It's not just something that you create one article and then people still don't buy and then you give up. So
which goes to number 3, which is create constantly.
Yes, exactly. So that kind of does lead into that. So it is about building the reputation and understanding why people buy what they're buying now and how you can kind of flip them into buying your stuff, which is obviously better or you wouldn't be selling it, right? That's the other part. So, yep.
As a sales guy, I found that, selling software, really part of it was education, because whoever had the best marketing won, not generally the best product. And then when you educated people on why this might be more important to them, it really made the difference. What my favorite piece is, listening to those who matter and then tuning out those who don't. How do you tell the difference?
Yeah, it's great. That's a good one too. Those who matter, the people who buy from you matter. And the people who come out with a negative attitude from day one, who would say, well, that will never work, right? Those are the obvious candidates for not listening to. The other part of it is listening to not just your friends, but the market as a whole, right? Your friends aren't the market. Sometimes you're not the market. There are some businesses that I've built where I'm definitely the market, which is, I think, an easier business to build because I know where I am and what I would want out of the market. There are some businesses I've built where I am not necessarily the market. But when I ran my software company, I built it for myself originally, but then big companies bought it. And I learned that I am definitely not the market. I'm not a Fortune 500 company. So I had to adjust to the market. You have to go out there and talk to people that you don't necessarily know. This is where people get uncomfortable, right? They don't want to talk. It's easy to post on Facebook about your product. It's hard to talk to somebody who may be in the market, but is not necessarily somebody that you know. And so that's where I challenge people to go outside of the box and to talk to people they don't necessarily know. Those are the people who matter. The people who are in the market for that type of product are the people who matter to you. And if you're going to get some hard feedback at first, right? You're probably going to get some, well, I already have this thing. Why should I change, right? And don't take that as offense. Take that as a challenge, but in a healthy, kind way, a way to show that you're better. You're gonna screw it up the first 10 times that you do it. You're gonna bumble through it.
Build that in. You're going, it doesn't mean you're failing. It's just
right. That's where persistence comes into, because you're totally going to bumble it. I can remember pitching my software company in front of people, and I would get all this advice when I was pitching it. It was completely overwhelming to me. At one point, I just broke down in tears because I was just so overwhelmed by all the negative feedback, and it felt like it was constantly negative. But I had to remember that these people had my best interest at heart, and they were trying to help, and they were trying to put their own experience in a box and hand it to me. And so I took their advice and made my pitch better. And I think that's the key here too.
Yeah, I think really discerning who to listen to and who not to listen to is a big part of moving forward in life. When you just listen to the whole entire peanut gallery, it just gets confusing. When you find people you can trust, when you know where they're coming from, you can trust. It really is a good thing. But this is why one of the reasons I like talking to you is because you're one of the best business coaches on the planet. I say that without hesitation. So if you're listening and you're struggling in a business, Erica is definitely a direction to go. She only coaches a few people at a time because she runs her own businesses, is a mom and a writer, and just juggles all those balls. So what are you excited about now? What are you working on now?
So my new website is called hackadhd.com. And I am my blog for many years has been focused on entrepreneurship in general, but I noticed that I have attracted a lot of ADHD folks around me. I think that we ADHD people tend to attract each other. Often I notice that most of my friend circle is other people with ADHD, which is totally fine. And I have discovered a lot of health and wellness stuff that helps with ADHD. A lot of it is not products to buy either. So I think that it's an important voice in this industry to talk about how I did with entrepreneurship, and not just pitch products all day long, but to really get out there and help people. So, like, one of the weird things that I did was actually tape my mouth shut at night so that I wouldn't mouth breathe or snore. And I just used like 3M Durapore tape, which is like stuff that you can buy on Amazon super cheap, or at a drugstore.
No.
And I just tape my mouth shut, and I do that every night. And I've gone almost completely off my ADHD medication at this point. I take basically the lowest possible dose. So it's dramatically improved my ADHD symptoms, and I can definitely tell that my memory and recall are far better.
That
So,
is absolutely mind-blowing. So
yeah.
what I really want people to do is to go to that website, and we're going to put that in the show notes. So you can go follow, if you have ADHD, or if you're just interested in business, wisdom, all that stuff, go to that website and get you some Erica Douglas. Erica, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Mark. I'm really excited to be here.
I
This has
have
been
no
great.
idea how I'm going to title this show. And I pity Dawn, who does my show notes, to figure out what to focus on. But I don't care. It's just so much. It's such a delight to be with you and to share you with people.
Oh, well, I'm so grateful to have been on your show, and I'm happy to introduce your show to more of my audience as well.
Thank you so much. And to all of you for listening, I just appreciate your time and your attention. If you like the show, please share it. Please rate it. That seems to help. And send me notes with topics that you'd like us to discover and explore. I love you. Have a great rest of the day.